Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, founder of a revolutionary medical sales training and mentorship program called the Medical Sales Career Builder, and I'm also host of the Medical Sales Podcast. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire world. It doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing and diagnostic lab, you name it, you will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 10% performer within your role, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. And remember, I am a medical sales expert sharing my own opinion about this amazing industry and how it can change your life. So Sean, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I've been in the medical device sales space for the last 10 plus years. Kind of started off, came from the hospital as a respiratory therapist and, wanted to kind of branch out, do something a little bit different. So had some success as a territory manager, kind of moved into a clinical specialist role with a little bigger company. And then, had some things not work out as well as intended over there, and had an opportunity with the company I started with to come back in a regional sales manager role. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Okay, so let's get into the details. What exactly do you do now? What's the type of medical sales is it? What do you guys sell? Talk to us.
Yeah, so we're a DME, primarily a rental company. So we do a large variety of equipment. We're not a manufacturer, we're a distributor. So like back during COVID, when everybody was out of ventilators and things like that and need additional units, we're kind of the company they go to get those things from. So we do some things like high level, BiPAPs, ventilators in the hospitals, all the way down to beds, wheelchairs, wound vacs, in skilled nursing and rehab hospitals. So a pretty wide range.
So your company's smaller, your distributor. Talk to us about what that means for the customer. Why is the customer going with you guys instead of going with like a big name manufacturer?
Yeah, so I think a couple of different things. We compete with a lot of, national companies or have over the years. Locally, you usually get access to a lot better service, a lot better support. Kind of a good example, we had at one point in time when I was in a territory manager role, we try to do a lot of equipment demonstrations and get the equipment in front of you, show it to you, show you what it does. Not being a manufacturer, obviously everybody has access to the same equipment we do. So some of our competitors carry the same things. I went in, showed them the equipment, showed them the features, showed them how it works, kind of romanticized it a little bit. And they wanted to take it on a trial. Like, yeah, absolutely. So they're like, this is way better than what we get from our other vendor. So we go in the room to switch it out. And it was the same equipment that they had, same manufacturer, same everything. And I was like, all right, cool, let's switch it. But they just didn't understand what it did. So I think being on that level, we do a lot better job of really, getting in there, training them, walking them through it, making sure they're successful with it.
Okay. And then you mentioned renting. So with your product line, the equipment's rented as opposed to purchased. Is that because the customers have a scenario where it just warrants renting, or is that because the customer just can't afford what would come directly from a manufacturer? Talk to us about what that means.
Yeah, it's a pretty wide range of different reasons. Sometimes the higher you go up the chain in a hospital or, any of the facilities we work with, rent's kind of like a 4-letter word and something they don't necessarily want to do, but something every building does. So it could be just, during those peak times, like respiratory right now, we're kind of mid flu season. So they're a little bit busier. So maybe they use more ventilators now than they typically would. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to own a bigger fleet where you could just rent them for the short term. Other equipment we have access to is a little higher purchase cost, and maybe there's not as big of a need for it, but buildings want to accept an admission or have a special kind of case that can be treated with that type of equipment. And sometimes just a capital thing. So maybe they don't have the capital budget to go buy new equipment right now. So it's something they use kind of in the interim until they're able to go out and afford and purchase it.
Very cool. And your mainstay is DME and acute care for what you normally sell.
Correct. Yep. So yeah, pretty wide range, over 150 different products. So yeah, a lot to learn.
A lot to learn, right? The DME space primarily focuses on what?
So DME, I would say our primary, maybe our biggest portfolio is on the wound care side. So, specialty mattresses that are going to prevent bed sores, things like that for people that can't get out of bed, wound pumps, wound vacs to actually treat, wounds that have been existing for years and years. But also, we do some specialty chairs for people that have limited mobility. Maybe it's better trunk support, or they can move around better. Um, so we have a pretty wide range of different things. So we try to kind of bring some unique options to the market that maybe people don't know.
Very cool. And then the acute care side focuses primarily on what?
Primarily on the respiratory side, that's kind of what attracted me here in the first place is, they do a lot of the higher level ventilators, BiPAPs, also some, different specialty devices that can be used to help a patient with a lot of secretions, kind of loosen them up, prevent pneumonias, things like that, get them out of the hospital faster.
So before this company, what company were you working for?
So since I came back, I was working for Philips Respironics specifically as a clinical sales specialist.
So, and everyone, I think this is such a good opportunity for people to really get some understanding here. Philips is a big manufacturer. Fitzsimmons is a smaller distributor. Talk to us about the difference. What if someone is listening to this thinking, I want to be in medical sales, or maybe they are in medical sales and works for something like Philips and thinks, and maybe it's greener as a distributor. Talk to us about what the biggest differences are working for a big manufacturer versus a distributor.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest difference. So when I was initially kind of training onboarding at Philips, I picked it up right away. But being a smaller company, you don't have that name, that brand recognition behind you. So you really got to kind of have that dog in you, right? To go in and you just got to kind of grind because nobody's going to be like, oh, yeah, you're from this company. I want to meet with you. So when I was training initially at Philips, I was working with one of the account managers and he was, we were talking about a particular account and he was like, yeah, I called that guy a couple days ago and I still haven't heard back from him. It's kind of weird. And I just paused for a second. I was like, man, people call you back. That's crazy. Like, I'm so used to like, you really got to just, really get after it and just kind of be in the right place, right time,
Yeah.
mix it up to get in front of people. So I would say that was the biggest difference. But then also just being with the bigger company, you have sales enablement folks, you have clinical specialists, kind of like the role that I was, you have a team of people that can really help you with sales, move things along, train people. Where being at a smaller company, you're kind of the one person show. So you're the clinical expert, you're the technology expert thing. I'm so thing. So I think being newer in sales, it's kind of a good spot to be because I don't mean this disrespectfully towards anybody that works, there. But I found Phillips to be easier because I was like, man, I can get in front of people. And, that was maybe the biggest struggle with, being with a smaller company.
Sure, sure. However, you're with a smaller company now and you're loving your life. So I guess getting access is a big thing, of course, with something like Philips. But what's the real benefit to being where you are today?
So I think the nice thing in the role that I'm in now is, being a smaller family owned company, I have a lot of autonomy, right? I can, kind of guide my team in the way that I feel makes sense. I have the support of our upper leadership team, to be able to try new things, kind of be innovative. Yeah, I had someone give me an analogy one time, working with a smaller company, it's like turning around a car. Working with a bigger company, it's like turning around like, a private jet. Both can be done, but it takes a lot longer to do one than the other.
Sure.
So I would say that's kind of my favorite part. I get to be really involved in the field still with my team, kind of see, what's going on. I'm not managing from a computer or a CRM. Like I get to be out in the field with them, see what's going on, see where we can improve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's definitely my favorite part of it right now.
Love it. Talk to us about the team dynamic. So you're a regional sales manager. How big is your team?
Yeah, so I have a team of 5 territory managers under me right now. We try to work very collaboratively. I, I don't know necessarily that I know how to be a great leader, but I know when I've had managers that I really enjoyed working for, what I liked, and that was someone that's going to kind of have your back, empower you to be successful. Because ultimately, that's why you bring these guys in, right? Because they're talented, they're going to go out and get things done. So want to give them the, power and ability to be able to do that. But then also somebody that's, willing to get boots on the ground and roll up their sleeves and come help in the field if need be. So that's what I kind of try to do. We try to work very collaboratively, not a micromanager at all. That wouldn't be very successful as one. So yeah, that's kind of our dynamic here.
Okay. So talk to us about a day in the life of this kind of role. Think about one of your reps or think about when you were a territory manager. What time are you waking up? What are you normally going to do? What is the day to day? By lunchtime, you're doing this. By 3 o'clock, you're doing this. By 5 o'clock, when does the day end? Are you working weekends? Give us the whole picture.
Yeah, so there's a lot of variety in this role, I would say for sure. I think one of the things that makes people successful is I'm a big sports guy, something that doesn't really show up on the stat sheet, right? So, kind of getting your day prepped before the day starts. So, kind of when I was in the role, what I would do, I'm probably getting going about 7:30. I always wanted to go in and see what orders came in the last night because say I got some, account I've been working with for a while that hey, they finally took some equipment from us. I want to get out there and follow up as soon as possible and make sure it's going well. So I'm going to review my stuff from the day before. If I have any quotes that I'm bringing out to anybody, any equipment that I'm going to be demonstrating, I'm getting all that together at that time, kind of making sure I have my day prepped, ironed out. I would say, probably making the first call around 9:30. There's kind of a sweet spot of the day where, between like 10 and 2 kind of seems to be the best time, maybe 10 and 3 to really catch people. So if I have some key accounts that I'm like, all right, I really want to try and get in front of them, I'm going to go out at that time, kind of give those that prime window where I'm more likely going to see them. But there's a ton of variety.
Before you move forward, give us an example of what type of account would that be? Like, give us, you're going to who, you're showing up where, what are you talking about? Get into it.
Yeah, so let's say we're focusing on a group of some skill buildings that we've been trying to get in with. There's a lot of changing hands, so that makes it kind of interesting sometimes. But yeah, say we're meeting with an administrator at one of these buildings. These guys are in meetings all day. They're getting 80 plus emails a day. So we're trying to maybe catch them. Hopefully we've got a set meeting with them already, but sometimes not always possible. So we're trying to get in front of them, bring in the equipment, show it to them. I would say the one thing that makes this job a lot of fun is you can meet with a central supply guy at a hospital in the morning and then go to a meeting with a hospital executive, at 11:30, meet with a respiratory manager at a hospital at 1 and meet with an administrator of a skilled building at 2:30. And you're kind of a different rep at each one, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So, okay. So go back to the day. So you've met with these call points. It's noon. Give us the rest of the day and when you're ending.
Yeah, so I would say usually you're kind of wrapped up in the field between 3:30 and 4 o'clock most times. Again, being a one person kind of show here, you'll get some accounts that are like, hey, we need you to train our night shift, or hey, we need you to come in at 4 or 5 to train this staff that doesn't come in till then. So there's a lot of variability to it. Some days you might start at 6 a.m. to catch a night shift, or I've done trainings on a Saturday for weekend staff. I've done trainings on midnight for a night shift. I used to work nights at the hospital, so I know at 6:30, I wasn't really trying to hear any training. So I always kind of offer to go in later at night when maybe they're at their peak performance. So I would say about, 3:34, you're kind of making your last call in the field. Once you get home, kind of got your field notes to put in, if you need to get some quotes together, anything like that, send up some follow-up emails, probably wrapping up 5:30, depending on drive time, how far you are that day. So if you're a little closer, it might be a little shorter day, but some of our accounts are 2.5 hours away. So maybe it's a little bit longer day.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And I want to let you know our programs cover the entire career of a medical sales professional. From getting into the medical sales industry, to training on how to be a top performer in the medical sales industry, to masterfully navigating your career to executive level leadership. These programs are personalized and customized for your specific career and background, and trained by over 50 experts, including surgeons. Our results speak for ourselves, and we're landing positions for our candidates in less than 120 days in top medical technology companies like Stryker, Medtronic, Merck, Abbott, you name it. Would you run an Ironman race without training and a strategy? You wouldn't. So why are you trying to do the same with the medical sales position? You need training, you need a strategy, and you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and let's get you into the position that you've always dreamed of. Now, in a lot of medical device, pharma, even biotech fields, the relationship with the customer can get really intense where, you've almost made them family. You're hanging out on weekends and things like that. Is it that intense in your space, or is it more everybody just kind of keeps it between working hours and the relationships kind of end there?
No, I'd say it's very relationship heavy. I would say medical sales in general, or just medical, healthcare world in general, is a very small world. So, the more friends you have, kind of the better things are, the more you can understand what your people need. But just to give you an example, I have a lady at a building I worked with for several years. When I first met her, she kind of gave me the cold shoulder, wasn't interested at all. And I was like, "Man, okay, I guess we're not going to be friends." Fast forward a few years later, she's no longer working at the facility she was at the time. Calls me at 7:30 and is like, "Hey, I'm working here now. I know we don't work with you guys, but my mom's on hospice and I had a respiratory question. I was wondering if you could kind of help me out." And I'm like, "Man, that's awesome that, you thought of me in that situation." So it's very relationship heavy. And I think the more you can leverage your relationships, if, you work with someone at a building, like I said, it's a small world. You work with someone that you have a good relationship with, you do a good job for, they're happy with your service. It could be really helpful to ask them like, "Hey, I know you got some contacts over here. Like, would you mind introducing me?" And I mean, that's been a great way for me to get into places.
That's awesome. I love that. So give us, I love going into deeper into your world. Give us a time when you were just doing your job. What was going on when you said, "I love what I'm doing. Like, this is it. Like, I love what I'm doing. I love that I'm here because of experiences like this."
Yeah, so I'm super competitive. So that's definitely what motivates me. I know a lot of people, look at sales and are like, "Oh, it's money. It's good money. You can make good money." And I mean, yeah, that's all true for sure. But to me, it's the competitive part that makes it fun. Kind of figure if you do a good job, you control what you can control. The financial part's going to come, right? So for me, it's always when somebody tells you no, they'll never work with you, and then a couple years later, they're your best account. That's what really gets me fired up and excited to go out every day and do this. And I think it's super important to believe in the company you work for and what you're representing, because I think that's what really motivates you to go back, a 10th time, an 11th time, a 12th time when somebody's told you no, because you're like, "Hey, you know what? I know I have something great. I know you'll love it. Like, you just need to give me the opportunity to show you that."
And your job is mainly meeting with administrators and not as many clinicians, or a little mix?
No, it's a mix of both. We meet with a lot of clinicians, a lot of end users. So yeah, it's definitely a good mix.
You spoke earlier about how access is probably one of the biggest challenges for your company specifically, because you just don't have that name recognition. Guess another one. What's another challenge in your space that people should absolutely know about if they're thinking about working in this kind of space?
I would say in medical device in general, it's really being able to differentiate what you offer versus what somebody else offers. Because you'll get a lot of people, especially as you get higher level, they just want to look at a number and a price, right? And say, "Hey, okay, this one's, this amount, this one's this amount. They're both wound vacs, right? Okay, well, we should probably just get the cheaper one." So it's really being able to showcase like, "Hey, maybe ours isn't the cheapest, but healthcare is generally not very black and white. There's a lot of gray area. So, would it be fair to say if, we prevented one infection for you that you're probably going to save a lot of money than those couple dollars you're going to save on this lesser product?" It's really being able to get in front of people to show that and be able to kind of sell that difference.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, the money, we talked about it. What's the base pay range in this space? What's the commission range in this space? What can first year reps make versus 5-year reps?
Yeah, I would say, medical device, probably pretty fairly wide range kind of coming in out the gate. I would say you're probably going to be between 70 to 80,000. That'll be base plus commission, kind of depending on the immediate success you have. I mean, you could be over six figures in the first year, first 2 years. reps probably 5+ years. I would say probably mid 100s, 125 to 140 range. We've had some reps go well over 200. So I mean, there's a pretty good range.
Okay. And just to be real specific, you said medical device earlier. This is medical device. Everyone listen, this is medical device, DME, and acute care. So this is not general medical device. This is specifically DME and acute care. And this is specifically working for a distributor. Now, one thing I want to ask, as a distributor, are your reps W-2 or are they 1099?
No, our team is all W-2, all full-time employees.
So this is good to know too, because I think a lot of people believe that distributorship automatically means 1099. And you are a literal living example that no, it doesn't. It can vary. And you're an example of a W-2 distributorship. So that is fantastic. So talk to us about this then. In general, maybe top three things. If someone's listening to this right now and they're thinking, I would love my first position to be in DME and acute care and work for a smaller company like this distributorship as a W-2 position. What are three things that you need to make sure they check at the door? 1, 2, and 3. And be specific. Get deep, Sean. Not just general. This is not just general medical devices. This is specifically DME and acute care in distributorship. What are some things that people need to ask themselves if they're even thinking of going this direction?
Yeah, I would say the first and probably most important thing with any medical sales is, you got to be hungry, you got to be willing to go out and put in the hours, put in the effort. I would say that's always kind of number one. Number two, with being with a smaller company, you really have to be open to learn and be coachable. I think that's something, that you're going to have to learn a lot of the equipment. You're going to have to learn a lot of your competitors. It's something that never really stops, kind of that learning process. I would say I know more from a sales standpoint in this industry, significantly more this year than I did last year. And, astronomically more than I did year one when I worked here. So I would say it's a commitment to always being able to improve not just your sales, but your equipment knowledge, your market knowledge. It's a very fluid market, so it changes very quickly. And I would say, also the mental component of it is very important. I think having, kind of that feeling of, really a belief of who you represent and the products you represent, really kind of having that like, I got to get this in front of you because I know that if it was my mom, my grandma, my sister, I would want them to have this type of equipment or this type of service because it's better than what you currently have. And, just kind of being flexible because a lot of times, a lot of these clinicians, if you're meeting with them specifically, their day could change in a minute. And maybe they had an emergency that came up and you're like, hey, I just drove out here. I brought this equipment. I was going to show it to you. And you can't meet with me now. So being able to be organized and really have a pivot if your day gets blown up to say, okay, well, I'm not going here, but I can still do this and, still make a productive day out of it.
Sure, sure. That makes a lot of sense. So you're a regional sales manager, you hire people. And what's cool about your space, DME and acute care, is it's entry level friendly. In fact, you've said that people that are wanting to get started in the medical sales world should consider a space like this. What are you looking for when you're sitting in front of a candidate? Maybe give us 3 to 5 things that you are looking to hear to see if it even makes sense for them to be sitting in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think definitely having some medical background helps, but I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I've worked with a lot of talented people here that did not have any medical background whatsoever, but man, they knew their stuff. So, I'm always looking for somebody that's coachable, that's really ready to get out there and just kind of dive in head first. We do a lot of equipment presentations. That's kind of a key of our sales process. So someone that's willing to just take it and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go out, I'm going to show this. I'm probably going to look stupid the first 3 times, 5 times, but it's going to get better and I'm going to get better at it. And, someone that, like I said, is coachable, willing to learn, willing to take feedback and kind of put it into immediate action. That's kind of the things I'm looking for, specifically. I think, for me, the work ethic part is always you can teach somebody how equipment, you can teach them how to sell, you could teach them how to negotiate. You can't teach somebody to start the car in the morning and go out to work. So I think that's for me, that's the most important thing.
Got it. Give us, if you can, give us one of your most untraditional hires where you were just surprised? Maybe you took a chance on someone that just on the surface did not seem like a fit at all. And they, of course, turned out to surprise you. What, if you can share, what were they doing? Where did they come from?
Yeah, well, I guess hopefully if the rest of the team listens to it, they're not like, "Oh, yeah, believe you didn't pick me." Uh, but yeah, we had one of the RTs that we had that works with us. So we have some respiratory therapists on staff as well. I guess I should start by saying that. And I had actually worked with her at the hospital I was at previously, some years ago. So I'd known her for a long time. No sales background whatsoever, very, very friendly, really more on the passive side, I would say, like a people pleaser, but was interested in doing something different. And we had a position kind of open up on the sales team and had kicked it around a little bit. And it was like, well, I don't know if this is the right fit or, how this will work. But I was like, man, I know she works hard and she's going to get out and get after it. And she actually ended up taking over for the number one rep in the company. He retired. So good for him. He was, a great mentor for me working here. So definitely appreciated that. It was weird being on the boss side of him. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
interesting. But she was able to really make an immediate impact, even though that territory had been successful and gone well. And she's, still doing really well. So even though she wasn't 100% sure about it, really just kind of, everything I mentioned earlier, kind of dived in, went for it, went after it, and it's gone really well for her so far.
Got to be a rock star. Amen to that. That's awesome. Well, this has been fantastic, Sean. You really shed some light on this very cool space of DME and acute care within medical sales. We have one more thing to do, the lightning round. Before we get there, I want to ask you a question specifically. What's your makeup? Are you a single guy? Are you a family man? And then why? What attracted you to medical sales in the first place? What brought you here?
Yeah, so I'm married, been married for going on 16 years now, got 4 kids, all
When's
boys.
the book coming out? When's the book coming out? Wow. Okay.
So it's chaos in the house 24/7. They're off school today, so I wasn't sure if they were going to come bursting through
What
the
is the
doors.
age ranges?
Yeah, so my oldest he's 16, so started driving, so that makes it interesting.
Very
Uh,
cool.
12, soon to be 13, 11, and then a 9-year-old.
So you're the trenches. Well, actually, you know what? Nine, they're almost autonomous, right? They're
Yeah,
a lot by themselves.
yeah, he's pretty self-sufficient. It's a little different than when they were all younger, for sure.
Right.
But yeah, different kind of headache. So, but yeah, so definitely stay busy with some of that stuff. Working as a clinician, so I don't have any family in the healthcare space. I actually kind of got a job after high school as a transporter at a hospital, and I was like, man, I kind of like this healthcare stuff. Like, I like working in the hospital. This is cool. Kind of maybe this is what I want to do. So I ended up going to school, became a respiratory therapist, worked in the hospital for about 5 years, and love respiratory, love the field, love everything about it, to be honest. But it's a little limited from a career path. So I wanted to do something where I had a little more growth opportunity, be able to do some different things, some different challenges. So I kind of fell into the medical device space somewhat randomly. I had just applied, didn't think I had a chance at it. Had an interview, the director of sales at the time, me and him got along great. He was super helpful and kind of getting me started and coaching me to kind of have an idea of what I'm doing. But I love it because I get that kind of competitiveness, that challenge, but I still get to help people at the end of the day. So, whether that be the clinicians, the patients themselves, getting better services, better equipment, better access. So yeah, that's kind of how I got here.
That's very cool, man. Very cool. Awesome. Sean, anything you want to share with our audience before we go?
Yeah, I mean, just if you're looking to get into the medical device space, or if you're looking to get into medical sales in general, I think no matter what, as long as you're willing to put in the work and put in the effort, I think you'll be able to break in and be successful.
I love it. I love it. Sean, thanks again for the time. People can find you on LinkedIn.
Yes, sir.
Okay. His link will be in the show notes. And thanks again for being on the Medical Sales Podcast, Sean.
Awesome, Samuel. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a customized and personalized program that gets you into the medical technology industry as a sales professional, or any type of role for that matter. Become a top performer in your position and masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolvesuccess.com by visiting our site, filling out an application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and allowing us to get you where you need to be. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews on the Medical Sales Podcast.